Hey, it's Saint Riot, and you know me, and I know me. I make a lot of builds, and I was looking at my builds, and I was like, what could I do? And one thing that I like to do is have the same build at different level ranges, just for fun. Like, let's say I'm doing level 80 invasions with my Madness build, and maybe level 80 invasions get slow for a second. I can switch over and try, invasions at a different level range with the same build. But I didn't have a higher level version of my Madness build. And so I made one, and this is it. And one of my favorite things that a Madness build can do is the Frenzy grab. Unescapable Frenzy, I think. I love that move, but it's hard to hit. As most people know. So what I decided to do was try and make Unescapable Frenzy as hittable as possible. And so what that looked like to me for this build was let's give ourselves a bunch of decks to increase our casting speed. And so if we cast spells faster, we will have better odds, right? And so the idea was, can we get it off as a heal punish? Meaning, if we cast the spell on someone who is drinking their flask, can we maybe get the grab before they finish drinking their flask? Dark Souls 3. That was kind of like the name of the game as far as PvP was concerned, in invasions anyway. Was, what could you do as a heal punish to maximize damage? You always wanted to do more damage than your opponent could heal, if possible. But in Dark Souls 3, that was kind of hard because stuff had, pretty low damage. Whereas in Elden Ring, stuff has absurd damage, right? And I like to, when I make a build, I like to, give it one or two things, just like as a fun little connective tissue, basically. And so for this one, I love Unsheath, and so I thought, I'll put a katana on the build, and I'll use Unsheath. And we're wearing this hat, this dumpling hat, and the black dumpling, I think it's called. And you get it from farming the Albinorics that wear the bag over their head. There's a bunch in Volcano Manor. And this thing sort of works like, Lord of Blood's Exaltation or Kindred of Rot's Exaltation. Except it doesn't work when your opponent is frenzied. It works only if you are frenzied. But thankfully, kind of, when you cast these madness spells, these frenzy spells, you build up your own madness, as you can see right there. Frenzied Burst, fully charged, and it doesn't build up a lot of madness, but it does build up madness. But the Howl of Shabriri, which is another spell that I really like, it builds up madness very quickly. Howl of Shabriri also gives you a buff to your damage, and it tanks your defenses. This dumpling hat is basically like a bigger version of that. So if you use the Howl of Shabriri twice, or if you use Howl of Shabriri and something else, and you end up self-proccing madness on yourself, this thing does a lot of damage, this build. And we've got Catch Flame. I feel like it fits the build thematically, but also it's really good. It's a great spell, and having that as a sort of a way to deal with like the 1v1 duelists and stuff like that. That's nice. We also have Bestial Vitality and Black Blade, and those are the spells that just kind of round out the build. Obviously, all the frenzied spells are on here, all the madness spells. But if you grab all the memory stones, you still have a few slots for some spells. And so I thought, yeah, let's do those. So I played through the game, I got all the stuff I wanted. And then I played through New Game Plus, so I should have started Samurai on this build, just for the second Uchi to start with. But I didn't. I started Vagabond. So I went into New Game Plus. I got a second Uchi Katana for PvE, basically. Because for whatever reason, I wanted the Katana to be Sacred Infused on this build. Which is good in PvP, but it's terrible to play the game with. So I got a second Uchi Katana that I could, like, Fire Infuse for, you know, PvE to actually, like, get through the game. And then we also got that second Frenzied Seal. And that's boosting our Madness incantations further. And it also allows us to punch people with our left hand Frenzied Flame Seal. And when you punch people with the Frenzied Flame Seal, it builds up Madness. And it builds it up pretty quick. And if you have two seals, your left hand L2 button, you know, the one that doesn't cast spells, left trigger, that punch is really fast. And so you can build up Madness really fast, which is hilarious. So we've got that going on top of, you know, all the spells. And you just saw there, using Unescapable Frenzy as a heal punish against people. And I love it. I absolutely love it. I use that spell to, like, punish heals. You can also use it as a roll catch if your opponent rolls at anything you do. If your opponent just rolls anytime you do anything, but they roll towards you, Unescapable Frenzy is great for that. We've got Radiant's Icon on here so that we have that gets us to, like, maximum cast speed. I think we've got like 40 decks. So 40 decks plus Radigan's Icon is essentially, for the purposes of spellcasting only, it's 70 decks. You cast spells as if you had 70 decks, because Radigan's Icon gives you an extra 30 spellcast decks. Not damage decks, just for spellcasting. Unendurable Frenzy, which is absolutely bonkers, as you can see. That spell's absurd. But, you know, it's one of those spells where, like, if you can get away from it, you know, it's not a big deal. Alternatively, it has, like, a pretty long startup that can be interrupted. So it's, you know, like, it's counterable. But if it goes off at point-blank range, it can be bad. The Madness proc into getting hit again is a lot of times enough to finish people off. I almost Madnessed myself right there, and it didn't work, and I'm very sad about that. One thing that's funny about this build is to proc Madness on yourself and then hit somebody with Unsheath. And I'm not using Alexander's Jar Shard on this build. And my Unsheath will still do like 1200 damage, which is an absurd amount of damage. But that's the dumpling giving us that extra buff after we proc Madness on ourselves. Which, again, absolutely tanks our defenses. It makes our defenses garbage. So that's not something that, like, you can just do without giving it any thought. Like, if you decide to go that route, you need to not get hit, because you're not going to survive very many hits. But yeah, Katana and Madness. It's a fun build. I jokingly have been telling people that this is in preparation for the Madness Katana that's going to be in the Elden Ring DLC. And my reasoning for that is that in every From Software game, there is a katana that when you wield it, it does damage to you. It does damage to the wielder. And in the Dark Souls games, that katana was called Chaos Blade. And the Chaos Blade, you know, in Dark Souls ties to, like, the lore of Chaos in Dark Souls, which is big magic, life-creating fire, combined with, like, humans, like the humanity of human beings, right? So it was like this corrupted, perverse fire that created a bunch of demons and yada yada. In Elden Ring, chaos is a perverse, twisted fire, you know, and you've got that NPC Shabriri, who is obsessed with chaos and make chaos take the world. So if there's going to be a chaos blade in Elden Ring, obviously it's got to be a madness katana. Now, do I want there to be a madness katana? Absolutely not, which is why I made this build. This is me tricking my desire sensor, using my desire sensor to trick From Software. I'm using reverse psychology. We're straight Bugs Bunny in this bitch, okay? I'm saying, oh, I made a build for the Madness Katana that I know is going to be in the DLC. And they'll be like, oh, you think we're going to put a Madness Katana in the DLC? Guess what? We're not. And then I'll be like, oh, no. Uh-oh. Oh, that makes me so sad that you didn't put it in there. Oh, I had a build ready for it and everything. You see what I'm saying? See what I'm getting at? It's four-dimensional chess, baby. And I play it on the astral plane. Alright? My body becomes transparent. I pose like the Vitruvian Man. And the chess pieces hover around me. Right? They're not even on the board. And I'm just setting them down. Okay? And as a response to that, there's not a damn Madness Katana in Elden Ring. But the build is fun. It's a good build. I've said this before. I'll say it again. I really wish I could get Unsheath on a straight sword, and then I would put that on the build instead of the katana. But that's just not what I've got to work with. So here I am using a katana, which is fine. Katanas are cool. I'm they're a little overplayed, but they're also kind of overhated, I think. I'd say most of that is probably on Moonveil and Rivers of Blood. But, the honest Uchi katana, the working man's katana, like, there's nothing wrong with this thing. It's great. This is, you can see me kind of, like, I'll attack somebody, I'll get them low on health, and then I'm sitting here thinking to myself, heal. You should heal so that I can grab you. And there's a lot of Elden Ring players who just, it's smart to not heal. It's smart to only heal when it makes sense and not heal at a bad time. And certain players, they know that. Certain players do it anyway, even though they don't know it. See what I'm saying? See the difference there? They just accidentally play good, right? And so it's my job to try and decide, is this person accidentally playing good? Or are they actually playing good? The end result typically ends up being, it doesn't matter. It's all the same in practice. So just, But yeah, that's how we get the grab, is when they heal. It's great. I love it. I hope you like it. I have more of this build, and I will show it to you next time. Until then, later, y'all.